Thought of the day, my dear friends: how willing are you to look ridiculous in public? How willing are you to make mistakes that people can see? And how willing are you to be wrong or to look foolish? The answer to that question dictates the speed by which you achieve whatever it is you're trying to achieve. The more you worry about looking silly, the more you worry about people's opinions, the more you worry about whether or not you're perfect yet at whatever it is that you do, whether it's sending an email to your email list or making little videos like this or posting on social media or doing cold outreach to clients, the more you worry about being perfect and not seeming like you're learning or not seeming like you're making mistakes, the more worried you are about that, the slower you will be to take action. Therefore, the slower your results will be. Let me give you an example. If it takes 100 emails, let's just say, for example, or let's say LinkedIn outreach messages. Let's say you have to reach out to 100 people on LinkedIn. All right, before someone will get on a phone call. Now, those aren't really great numbers, but let's just say that's what it is. To keep the math easy, you have to reach out to 100 people on LinkedIn before you get on one phone call, and you have to have 4 phone calls before you close a sale. Let's just say that those are your numbers. The longer it takes you to send out a connection request when you know you need to send out 400 of them, but you're worried that your profile isn't perfect, or you're worried that your content isn't perfect, or you're worried that you don't have everything perfectly scripted yet, you have to get through 400 connection requests. So the longer it takes you to do one is the longer it takes you to do 400, is the longer it takes you to get 4. So the less you worry about being perfect, the more connection requests you send out, the more phone calls you have, the more exposure you get to people who aren't as judgmental about you as you are about yourself. So what often happens is when you let go of perfection or worrying about whether you look silly or not, you're able to be significantly more productive, right? So for a lot of people, the secret to productivity isn't some calendar. It's letting go of being perfect and just sitting down and getting it done and just making the video and not worrying about what the lighting is or whether you look a certain way or whether the script is perfect and all these sorts of things. Just get it done and then move on to the next one and move on to the next one. Because nothing of any significance has ever been a one-off event. In other words, many great writers, for example, sit atop large volumes of work. Great musicians. I watched this really cool thing about John Williams last night, who's the composer who's worked with Steven Spielberg and done Jurassic Park and Schindler's List and all those incredible soundtracks. The guy produces a significant amount of work all the time. And if he was constantly worried about perfection or, oh, I think this one might not be my best, he would never get any work done, and we would never have John Williams. We'd never have the Star Wars soundtrack, which is like, we'd never have Indiana Jones, the Indiana Jones soundtrack. So when you become a creator, right, whether you are a writer, whether you are a designer, whatever, if you're an entrepreneur, you're somebody who is creating a business, you're a creator. You make things from nothing. If you have chosen that path, you have to understand you get paid directly in correlation to the amount you produce. Therefore, worrying about whether it's perfect, worrying about whether you look silly, worrying about whether it's the best thing you've ever made or not is a deterrent to productivity. Now you may say, well, but this very successful... When I was watching that John Williams interview, he talked about the fact that he doesn't listen to his own music because if he did, he would see all the imperfections. So even John Williams, the most honored, I think they call him the most honored composer of all time, something like 50 nominations for whatever Academy Awards or Oscars or whatever it is that those awards in Hollywood. Shows you how much I know. But there's like 50 plus nominations for these awards. Only Walt Disney had more nominations, but he has the most of any living person. Even he struggles with feeling like his work is or isn't good enough. But he doesn't let that stop him from producing the work. You're never going to feel like you're good enough, because the better you get, the more you see where you lack, right? So the better you get at video, the more you realize, oh, that video wasn't as good. The better you get at writing, the more you realize, oh, I messed up like 50 times, right? Like, all of these sentences are totally wrong. So if that's true, if someone like John Williams never fully gets over the difference between knowing what is good versus being able to critique their own work, then it's not about ever becoming perfect. It's about learning to overcome perfection. Once you learn to overcome perfection, my dear friends, you can become productive. When you become productive, you begin to live the consequences of a productive life. Let me just relate this to self-publishing, because I know a lot of you are considering self-publishing. To get an audience, you got to have a lot of books. And that's just the reality of it. So productivity is the answer. And the cool thing about productivity is that as you become more productive, you get in more repetitions. And as you get in more repetitions, over time, you become better. So my dear friends, hopefully this has been a helpful thought for you of the day. Beautiful woods. Wow, it's amazing. Hope you're having an awesome day, and I'll see you tomorrow in the next video.